The air was thick with the scent of sweat and blood, the roar of the crowd echoing like thunder in the massive alien arena. Jarek, a human soldier, stood in the center of the pit, his bare chest glistening under the harsh lights. His body bore the scars of countless battles, each one a testament to his resilience. He had been captured during a mission gone wrong, and now he found himself in a place where survival was the only law. Across from him stood Zoreth, a towering alien gladiator. Her skin was a deep shade of violet, her muscles rippling beneath her armor. Her eyes, a piercing shade of gold, glowed with a mix of arrogance and disdain. She was a champion of the arena, undefeated in over 100 battles. To her, Jarek was nothing more than prey, a weak human who would soon fall beneath her fists. "You humans are so fragile," Zoreth sneered, her voice dripping with contempt. "I've crushed your kind before, and I'll do it again. You're nothing but a slave, barely worth the effort." Jarek said nothing, his eyes scanning the arena. He knew he was outmatched in strength and size, but he had something Zoreth didn't: human ingenuity. The crowd's chanting grew louder, demanding blood, and Zoreth lunged forward, her massive fist aimed at Jarek's head. He ducked just in time, feeling the rush of air as her fist sailed past him. Rolling to the side, he came up behind her, landing a quick strike to her side. Zoreth staggered, her eyes widening in surprise. No one had ever landed a blow on her before. "Lucky hit," she growled, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in her voice. "Luck's got nothing to do with it," Jarek replied, settling into a fighting stance. "You ready to dance?" What followed was a brutal exchange of blows. Zoreth's strength and reach were unmatched, but Jarek's speed and tactical precision kept him one step ahead. Every time she thought she had him cornered, he slipped away like smoke, countering with devastating combinations that slowly wore her down. The crowd's mood shifted from bloodthirsty excitement to stunned silence as they watched their champion being systematically dismantled by the human slave. Zoreth's confidence began to crumble with each passing minute. "Impossible," she gasped after Jarek landed another punishing series of strikes. "You're just a human." "Yeah," Jarek said, barely winded. "Funny thing about humans, we tend to exceed expectations." The final exchange was brutal and decisive. Zoreth, desperate and frustrated, overextended on a powerful right hook. Jarek slipped inside her guard one last time, his strikes precise and devastating. A thunderous uppercut caught her jaw, sending her massive frame crashing to the arena floor. For the first time in her long fighting career, Zoreth found herself on her knees, trembling with exhaustion and something else: fear. The crowd erupted in chaos, thousands of voices demanding blood. "Finish her," they chanted. "Kill, kill, kill." Jarek stood over her, his fists clenched. By arena law, her life was forfeit. One more strike would end it all, and grant him his freedom. "You lost," he said calmly, his voice carrying across the suddenly hushed arena. "So wait for your sentence." Zoreth's lips trembled, but no words came. The crowd's bloodlust reached a fever pitch. "No," Jarek declared, lowering his fist and turning away. The silence that followed was deafening. You refuse." Zoreth's voice wavered, filled with disbelief and something else: a grudging respect. "That's right," Jarek replied, facing the main viewing box where the arena masters watched. "I won't kill an opponent who's already beaten. That's not the human way." The stands erupted in fury, but Zoreth could only stare at Jarek's back, her worldview shattering around her. This man had not only defeated her but had shown mercy, a concept alien to her culture's brutal traditions. "The human way," she whispered, testing the words on her tongue as chaos erupted around them. The arena was in chaos. The crowd, once united in their bloodlust, now erupted into a cacophony of shouts and jeers. Some demanded Jarek's head for defying the sacred combat laws, while others, for the first time, questioned the brutality they had always celebrated. The arena masters, seated high above in their opulent viewing box, exchanged furious whispers. This human had not only defeated their champion, but had also dared to show mercy, a concept that threatened the very foundation of their empire. Jarek stood tall, his chest heaving as he ignored the chaos around him. His eyes met Zoreth's, who still knelt on the blood-stained sand, her golden eyes wide with a mix of confusion and something deeper, respect. She had never been spared before. In her culture, mercy was seen as weakness, a flaw in the warrior's code. Yet here was this human, this supposed inferior being, showing her a kindness she couldn't comprehend. The arena guards, clad in sleek black armor, moved in swiftly, their energy weapons humming to life. They surrounded Jarek and Zoreth, their faces hidden behind dark visors. The head arena master's voice boomed through the amplification system, thick with rage. The human slave has defied sacred combat law. Both warriors will be executed for this blasphemy. Jarek's muscles tensed as he assessed the situation. 12 guards, armed with plasma rifles and riot shields. Bad odds, but he'd faced worse. What he hadn't counted on was Zoreth rising to her feet beside him, her massive frame radiating deadly purpose. "I will not die on my knees," she growled, her voice low and fierce. Her amber eyes met his, and for the first time, there was no mockery, no disdain, only determination. "It seems we fight together now, human." "Jarek," he corrected, a hint of a smile playing at his lips, despite their dire situation. "If we're going to die together, you might as well use my name." The first guard fired, the plasma bolt sizzling past Jarek's ear. He moved instinctively, rolling forward and sweeping the guard's legs out from under him. Zoreth launched herself at 2 others, her powerful arms sending them flying into the arena wall. They'd fought back to back, an unlikely duo finding perfect synchronization in combat. Jarek's swift, precise strikes complemented Zoreth's raw power. Each time he created an opening, she capitalized on it with devastating force. When she drew multiple attackers, he slipped through their defenses like water. The maintenance tunnels, Zoreth panted between strikes, her voice strained but steady. "Beneath the arena. We can lose them there." Jarek nodded, noticing how her hair-like tendrils, which he now realized were sensory appendages, seemed to move in response to her emotions, currently writhing with battle fury. It was strangely captivating. They fought their way to a service entrance, Zoreth ripping the reinforced door from its hinges with a display of strength that made Jarek whistle appreciatively. They descended into darkness, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. The tunnels were a maze of pipes and ancient stone, barely lit by flickering emergency strips. Jarek led the way, his combat training kicking in as he navigated them through the labyrinth. Zoreth moved with surprising grace for her size, though the low ceilings forced her to crouch. "You're different from what I expected," she said during a brief pause to catch their breath. Her voice had lost its earlier contempt, replaced by genuine curiosity. Jarek leaned against a wall, studying her in the dim light. Even battle-worn and hunted, she carried herself with a warrior's pride. "And what did you expect? Humans are supposed to be savage, primitive," she replied, her golden eyes narrowing as she spoke. "Yet you showed mercy. You fight with honor, with skill that rivals our greatest warriors." Jarek felt the air change between them, charged with something beyond the adrenaline of combat. "Maybe your people should revise their opinion of humans." "Perhaps," she murmured, her voice softening. "I certainly am." The moment stretched, heavy with unspoken possibilities. Jarek found himself acutely aware of her presence, the heat radiating from her body, the exotic scent that reminded him of spiced honey. A distant explosion shattered the moment, and they were on the move again. "There's a gladiator safe house in the lower levels," Zoreth said as they pressed deeper into the tunnels. "If we can reach it, we'll be safe. For now." Jarek nodded, his mind racing. He had no reason to trust her, yet something in her demeanor told him she was sincere. They moved in comfortable silence, communicating through gestures and shared glances that grew increasingly charged with unspoken attraction. Finally, they reached a heavy door marked with symbols Jarek didn't recognize. Zorath pressed her palm to a scanner, and the door slid open to reveal a sparse but secure chamber. The room was small by her species standards, forcing them into close proximity. Jarek could feel the tension building between them like electricity before a storm. "Why did you really spare me?" Zorath asked suddenly, her voice soft but intense. Jarek met her gaze steadily. "Because killing a defeated opponent proves nothing. Because I saw something in you worth saving." He paused, then added with a slight smile, "And because you're the most impressive warrior I've ever met." Her sensory tendrils rippled with emotion as she processed his words. "You are not what I expected at all, Jarek of Earth." She stepped closer until he could feel the heat of her body. "You make me question everything I thought I knew." The air between them crackled with possibility. Jarek reached up, brushing his fingers against one of her tendrils. It curled around his hand, sending a shiver through both of them. "Good," he said softly. "Questions lead to answers we never knew we were seeking." What followed was inevitable, as natural as gravity, as primal as breathing. Their first kiss was tentative, an exploration of differences that quickly blazed into something more. They came together as warriors, as equals, their passion tempered by mutual respect and growing admiration. Later, lying together on the chamber's sleeping platform, Zorath traced the scars on Jarek's chest with gentle fingers. "The arena masters will not stop hunting us," she murmured, her voice tinged with worry. "No," Jarek agreed, running his hand along the smooth skin of her arm. "But they've never faced anything like us before." She smiled, a fierce expression that made his heart race. "No, they haven't. And they will learn to fear what they've created." The distant echo of boots on metal roused Jarek from his light sleep. Beside him, Zorath was already alert, her golden eyes gleaming in the dim light of their hideout. Her tendrils coiled protectively around his shoulders, a gesture that had become familiar and comforting. "Elite hunters," she whispered, her breath warm against his ear. "They're sweeping the maintenance levels systematically." Jarek nodded, his tactical mind already mapping potential escape routes. "How many levels below us are there?" "3, Zorath replied, her expression shifting to reveal something she'd been holding back. "And they're not empty. The arena masters keep their failed experiments down there, warriors who refuse to kill, like us." The implications hit Jarek like a physical blow. "How many?" "Dozens, perhaps hundreds. Many are former champions who chose mercy over murder." Her voice carried both pride and pain. "I never understood their choice, until now." The sound of searching grew closer. Jarek pressed a quick kiss to Zorath's temple, drawing a surprised purr from her. "Then let's give them a chance to fight back." They gathered their minimal supplies, moving with the comfortable synchronization of warriors who had become intimate partners. Every shared glance carried the weight of their growing connection, their touches lingering just a moment longer than necessary. The lowest levels of the arena complex were a maze of ancient stone and modern security systems. Zorath's knowledge of the facility proved invaluable as they evaded the hunting parties, descending deeper into the darkness. "The prisoners are kept in stasis cells," she explained as they reached a massive security door. "The arena masters claimed they were executed, but really, they're kept as backup entertainment or test subjects." Jarek's jaw tightened. Not anymore. The security system proved no match for their combined skills. Zorath's strength and Jarek's technical expertise from his marine days. As the door slid open, they were hit by the eerie blue glow of hundreds of stasis pods lining the walls. "By the ancient stars," Zorath breathed, her tendrils writhing with emotion. "I knew some of these warriors, champions from a dozen worlds." They worked quickly, Jarek hacking the central control while Zorath stood guard. The first pod hissed open, revealing a massive warrior of a species Jarek didn't recognize. Others followed, each one a former champion who had chosen mercy over murder. The arena masters are deploying their elite hunters, Jarek announced to the gathering crowd of awakened warriors. They're sweeping down level by level. We can either run and hide, or we can fight back and end their corrupt rule once and for all. A ripple of anticipation moved through the assembled fighters. These were the best of their kind, warriors who had maintained their honor despite everything. Zoreth stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. I once mocked this human, believing him weak because he came from a lesser world, she declared, her voice carrying to every corner. I was wrong. His mercy showed more strength than any killing blow. Who among you will stand with us? The response was immediate and unanimous. Warriors of every species stepped forward, their eyes burning with the chance for justice. Jarek felt Zoreth's pride radiating through their growing bond. The hunters will be here soon, one of the freed champions warned. They have superior weapons and armor. Jarek grinned, the expression making Zoreth's heart race. But they don't have our secret weapon. They don't expect us to work together. The next hour was spent organizing their forces, with Jarek and Zoreth naturally falling into leadership roles. Their obvious connection, the way they moved in perfect harmony, inspired the others. Here was proof that different species could not only cooperate, but forge deeper bonds. The first wave of hunters arrived exactly as Jarek had predicted. They were met with an organized resistance that used the complex's architecture against them. Warriors who had once fought each other to the death now worked in seamless teams, protecting each other's weaknesses. During a brief respite between skirmishes, Zoreth pulled Jarek into a shadowed alcove. Her kiss was fierce and possessive, making his blood sing with battle fury and desire. You've awakened something in all of us, she murmured against his lips, something the arena masters tried to crush. Hope. Jarek traced the curve of her jaw, marveling at how natural their intimacy felt despite their differences. Hope is humanity's secret weapon. That and our stubborn refusal to accept impossible odds. An explosion rocked the complex, signaling the arrival of more hunters. Zoreth's tendrils curled around Jarek protectively. Speaking of impossible odds, or just the way I like them, Jarek replied, stealing one more kiss before readying his weapon, ready to show them what happens when they push warriors of honor too far. Her answering smile was fierce and beautiful. Lead the way, my human champion. The arena's lower levels shook with the impact of another explosion as Jarek and Zoreth led their rebel force upward. Through their growing bond, Jarek could sense Zoreth's increasing concern. Something beyond the immediate battle was troubling her. By all the ancient stars, Kraft breathed, his forearms clenching in rage. They're not just controlling minds. They're rewriting genetic code. Jarek worked quickly, his marine training including enough tech knowledge to understand the basic systems. The controls are linked, he said, his fingers flying over the alien interface. If we can overload the main broadcast, it should free both the enhanced warriors and break the crowd control. A sudden explosion rocked the chamber. Through their bond, Jarek felt Zoreth's fierce determination as she led the defense against overwhelming odds. Her unwavering faith in them, fueled his resolve. Broadcasting in 30 seconds, Jarek announced, his voice steady despite the chaos. Let's show everyone what's really been happening in this arena. The effect was immediate and devastating. Throughout the complex, enhanced gladiators stumbled as their neural conditioning shattered. In the arena above, thousands of spectators shook off the artificial bloodlust that had controlled them for so long. There's more to this facility than even I knew, Zoreth admitted during a brief lull, her voice low and urgent. Her tendrils coiled anxiously as she spoke. The Master's private levels contain technology that shouldn't exist in this sector of space. Jarek pulled her into a shadowed alcove, away from the others. The intimate gesture had become natural between them, a reminder of their deepening connection. What kind of technology? Mind control devices, she replied, her golden eyes narrowing. Genetic manipulation chambers. They'd been creating enhanced warriors, perfect gladiators who can't disobey. And the crowds, they're being influenced too. Jarek cursed under his breath, his tactical mind racing. That explains the unnaturally synchronized bloodlust in the arena. The whole system is rigged. A massive figure emerged from the shadows. Krath, a four-armed warrior they'd freed earlier. "The Masters are deploying their elite guard," he reported, his deep voice rumbling like distant thunder. "But these aren't normal fighters. They move wrong." "The enhanced gladiators," Zoreth growled, her protective instincts flaring as she moved closer to Jarek. "They'll be nearly impossible to defeat in combat." Jarek smiled, that dangerous grin that made Zoreth's heart race. "Then we don't fight them. We free them." The plan came together quickly. While the main rebel force engaged the regular hunters, Jarek would lead a small team to infiltrate the Master's control center. Zoreth, despite her fierce objections, would command the defensive line. "I should be at your side," she insisted, her tendrils wrapping possessively around his arm. The gesture drew knowing looks from their fellow warriors, who had come to respect and admire their unique bond. "You're our strongest fighter," Jarek replied, pulling her close. "And the only one they all trust completely." His fingers traced the curve of her jaw, making her purr softly. "Besides, you've already proven you can kick my ass if needed." Their kiss was brief but intense, carrying all the words they couldn't say. Around them, the rebel warriors prepared for battle, inspired by the obvious devotion between the human who had shown them mercy and the mighty gladiator who had learned to love. The assault began with precision timing. As Zoreth led the main force in a frontal attack, Jarek and his infiltration team used the maintenance tunnels to bypass the heavy defenses. The enhanced gladiators proved devastating, their movements unnaturally fast, their strength beyond even Zoreth's capabilities. But something unexpected happened when they faced the rebels. The sight of former champions fighting alongside each other, protecting rather than killing, seemed to create confusion in their programmed minds. The control isn't perfect, Jarek realized, watching through a security feed. They can't fully suppress their warrior spirit. The Master's control center was a testament to forbidden technology. Banks of neural interfaces lined the walls, broadcasting signals that influenced both crowds and fighters. But the true horror lay in the genetic manipulation chambers, where unconscious warriors floated in glowing fluid. "By all the ancient stars," Krath breathed, his forearms clenching in rage. "They're not just controlling minds. They're rewriting genetic code." Jarek worked quickly, his marine training including enough tech knowledge to understand the basic systems. "The controls are linked," he said, his fingers flying over the alien interface. "If we can overload the main broadcast, it should free both the enhanced warriors and break the crowd control." A sudden explosion rocked the chamber. Through their bond, Jarek felt Zoreth's fierce determination as she led the defense against overwhelming odds. Her unwavering faith in him, in them, fueled his resolve. "Broadcasting in 30 seconds, Jarek announced, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Let's show everyone what's really been happening in this arena." The effect was immediate and devastating. Throughout the complex, enhanced gladiators stumbled as their neural conditioning shattered. In the arena above, thousands of spectators shook off the artificial bloodlust that had controlled them for so long. But the Masters had one final weapon. As alarms blared throughout the facility, massive doors opened to release their ultimate creations, gladiators so heavily modified they barely resembled their original species. Through security feeds, Jarek watched Zoreth face these monstrosities. She moved with deadly grace, her fighting style now incorporating elements of his own techniques. Their bond hummed with shared strength and determination. "Zoreth," Jarek called through the comm system. "The neural controls are down, but these ones might be too far gone to save." "Then we give them the mercy of a warrior's death," she replied, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Together," Jarek said, feeling her fierce pride through their connection. "Together," she echoed. The arena complex trembled as the final wave of enhanced gladiators emerged, their grotesque forms a testament to the Master's twisted experiments. Jarek and Zoreth stood side by side, their bond stronger than ever as they prepared to face the ultimate test of their rebellion. "Stay close," Jarek said, his voice calm but firm. "We hit them hard and fast. No hesitation." Zoreth nodded, her golden eyes blazing with determination. Her tendrils coiled around his shoulders, a gesture that had become both protective and reassuring. "For freedom," she growled, her voice low and fierce. The battle that followed was unlike anything the arena had ever seen. Jarek's tactical brilliance and Zoreth's raw power combined to create a fighting force that moved as one. The enhanced gladiators, though monstrous in strength, were no match for the unity and strategy of the rebels. As they fought, Jarek noticed something remarkable. The freed warriors, once divided by species and culture, now fought as a single, cohesive unit. Krath's forearms smashed through enemy lines, while other warriors used their unique abilities to create openings for their comrades. The enhanced gladiators, their programming shattered, began to falter under the relentless assault. "They're breaking," Jarek shouted, his voice carrying over the din of battle. "Push forward." Zoreth roared, her massive frame plowing through the enemy like a living battering ram. Her tendrils lashed out, disarming and disorienting their foes. Jarek moved with her, his strikes precise and devastating. Together, they were unstoppable. The tide of the battle turned decisively when one of the enhanced gladiators, a hulking brute with glowing red eyes, turned on its masters. With a guttural roar, it smashed into the arena's control systems, causing a chain reaction of explosions that rocked the complex. "The masters are fleeing," Krath bellowed, his voice filled with triumph. "We've got them on the run." Jarek and Zoreth exchanged a glance, their bond humming with shared victory. But there was no time to celebrate. The complex was collapsing around them, and they needed to evacuate. "Everyone, fall back," Jarek ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Head for the lower levels. We'll regroup there." The rebels moved with disciplined precision, their trust in Jarek and Zoreth unshakable. As they descended into the tunnels, the sounds of the collapsing arena faded behind them. The air was thick with tension, but also with hope. In the safety of the lower levels, the rebels gathered in a large chamber. The atmosphere was electric, a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Jarek and Zoreth stood at the center, their presence commanding attention. "We've struck a blow against the masters," Jarek began, his voice steady and strong. "But this is just the beginning. They'll come for us with everything they have. Are you ready to fight for your freedom?" The response was immediate and unanimous. Warriors of every species raised their weapons, their voices united in a single thunderous cry. "For freedom." Zoreth stepped forward, her golden eyes sweeping over the crowd. "We are no longer slaves," she declared, her voice resonating with power. "We are warriors, united by honor and courage. Together, we will tear down the Master's empire and build a new future." The chamber erupted in cheers, the rebels' spirits lifted by her words. Jarek felt a surge of pride as he looked at Zoreth, her strength and determination inspiring everyone around them. As the rebels began to organize and prepare for the battles to come, Jarek and Zoreth found a moment alone. The bond between them had grown stronger with each challenge they faced, and now it was unbreakable. "We've come so far," Zoreth said softly, her tendrils gently caressing his shoulders. "But there's still so much to do." Jarek nodded, his eyes meeting hers. "We'll face it together. No matter what comes, we'll face it together." Their kiss was a promise, a testament to the strength of their bond and the unity they had forged. The road ahead would be difficult, but they were ready. Together, they would lead the rebellion to victory and create a new future for all.